This is a HeadGum podcast.
Jonathan Braylock, James III, Jerah Milligan.
What more can I say? You know what it is.
Black men can jump.
In Hollywood.
Black actors, man. Black actors. All right.
All right, y'all. We here.
Whoa, man, you starting to welcome? James
Well, you pointed and then
I was pointing to the room.
Where are we, James?
we back in New York.
Oh my Lord!
Yeah,
So welcome to
Black Men Can't Jump in Hollywood podcast. This is our first one back.
This is the first one back.
First one
man.
back from what?
After
From
like 2
South by
weeks.
Southwest, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's 2
I mean,
weeks.
not for the listeners, but for us.
Oh, okay. This is our first one back, but like not for real.
Physical location wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, our podcast, we review films of leading black actors, and then we break them down in terms of race and kind of maybe talk a little bit about.
Do they help the cause?
Yeah.
Do they?
Do they help the cause?
So today we are reviewing the film Antwone Fisher.
Yes.
Starring Derek Luke, directorial debut. Oh, I should say also
Directorial debut.
But also, sorry, let me redo that again.
Mm-hmm.
This is Derek Luke's on screen
That's
debut.
right.
Yes.
Screen debut.
His film debut,
His
right?
film
His film
debut.
debut.
And then Denzel Washington's directorial debut.
So,
There's
yes.
a lot of debuts with
Yeah,
this.
debuting it.
Antwone Fisher's first screenwriting debut.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot of firsts with this.
That's true. That's
Oh,
true.
man.
So that's right. There's basically an all-black cast,
All by cast.
a black director,
Right.
and a black screenwriter.
Yep.
That's why I got 0 Academy Awards.
We got a
And
guest,
before-
though.
Yeah, we have a guest.
We got a guest.
got a guest.
I'm going to try this.
studio.
I'm going to try this.
Okay.
People always hate this.
Drum roll.
This is Gerard's idea of what a drum roll is.
I'm trying to make it fancy. Hold
It's
on.
like a scattering of bees.
Okay, let me try it again. No,
Same sound. You're making the same.
Can you not do that? You can't.
I can't roll my tongue. I can't
That's
roll my
what
tongue,
it is.
man.
You got to go.
All right, Bray.
Victor Williams is in the house.
Yeah.
You may have seen him on The Affair,
Ooh.
King of Queens,
I watched that show.
actor.
Actually,
The creator of the King of Queens is always very it's the King of Queens.
Oh, excuse me.
Not Queen.
The King of Queens.
Yes,
Excuse me.
Yes. I'm saying he's going to listen. Represent.
Full title.
I know, right? The King of Queens.
But I brought that up because wasn't Derek Luke on a couple episodes of that show?
It's, one of the things I love I was excited when we said we were going to do this one because I can honestly say I knew Derek Luke before.
Yeah.
The thing. And it's that Hollywood story that you hear happen to some random person, but you never see that, you don't know that person in real
Right.
life. He worked in the gift shop at Sony Studios. And that's how he had a connection eventually in sort of helping him get to the Antwone Fisher story.
Right.
But he also, the creator of the King and Queens, Michael Whitehorn, thought he was a cool guy. And he was like, oh, what are you doing? They had a little conversation. He's like, aspiring actor. He's like, I got a little part on the King and Queens. Come do it.
Wow.
And that's how I got to
Wow.
yeah.
That is
working in the gift shop?
amazing.
He was working in the
I
gift shop.
remember reading this rumor, or I don't know, but it was he was working on the lot.
Yep.
And he heard about the audition from Antwone Fisher, who mentioned it, told him where it was.
Antwone Fisher was a security guard.
He was a security guard at Sony
What?
Pictures Studios.
It's crazy.
He was a security guard. So this is hearsay. I don't know if this is urban legend or
Right.
how much of this is fact.
Right. This is the legend.
Right. The legend is that Antwone Fisher was a security guard at Sony Picture Studios and was a cool guy and, became friends with some other executive producer who came on the lot, and he said, I got the script and check it out. And that it went on for a few years. That they legitimately loved it.
Yeah.
And it took a while, but they were like, this is going to happen. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it did.
So,
What?
if IMDb and Wikipedia are believe that they wanted to buy the story rights from him, but he was insistent on writing it himself. So he kind of withheld letting just selling the rights to the story to give it to another screenwriter. Wrote it and then wrote 41 copies of 41 drafts
Wow.
Wow.
That's hard work.
This this all coming back to me now. This I do know for a fact because I was there.
Yeah.
On one of the rare occasions I actually tried to get my workout on, and went to the gym. There was a gym at Sony Studios, and so Derek Luke had done his little cameo on The King of Queens, and he was like in there working out. And I've been hearing about this Antwone Fisher story thing, and we would talk he would be in the gym too, and we talked one time in the gym about it, and he says, yeah, I know Antwone, and, he said he's going to try to hook up an audition. And so I knew that they had been looking for a while for Antwone.
Oh, yeah.
But they still weren't looking at him because they were looking for a name.
They looking for a name.
And so they went through rounds and rounds and rounds, and they never got it. And Derek, I felt, was a little bit frustrated. It's like, I don't know, why didn't he be a shot? So I think it was sort of like rounds in. It was like, fine, let's just bring him in. Because I couldn't find the guy. So he wasn't like, one of their first 10, 20 choices. Like, they had gone through rounds and rounds and rounds of finding it. And when he came in, they're like, oh, this could be the guy.
Yeah.
Yo, so you're telling me. But listen, you're telling me that this movie stars, or like, not stars, but like Antwone Fisher was the security guard.
Yes.
And then Derek Luke worked in the
gift shop. He was the
Who goes
associate.
in the gift shop? Like, who goes in it?
I gotta say, the Sony gift shop is pretty swank.
I'm about to say, it wasn't the Jamba Juice. You weren't about to get a
people be up in the gift shop. Before you leave that day, you're like, let me just stop by the gift shop.
Yeah.
I remember just on that note, I remember reading that, like, and it probably is super urban legend, but it was a thing of it took Sony a long time to cast someone. And so what happened was, like, he apparently was friends with Antwone Fisher. Antwone Fisher said, we're still having these auditions, we're having these callbacks, and they're happening tomorrow at yada yada time. And I mean, it's probably urban legend, but it's like he ran up in, like, he waited, but like he signed in like he had an audition. Right. And sometimes they just call you. Sometimes the assistants just called the list, and he just went in like he had an audition.
Yeah,
but he didn't.
yeah.
And he killed it.
Wow.
Hey.
And he did. I thought he did.
Yeah.
So
what's this movie about?
Okay.
I'm looking at Braylock right now.
So yeah, like we said, it's based on a true story. The Antwone Fisher, the title of the movie, the guy wrote the movie. Basically, he was an orphan. Is that the appropriate term? I guess
he was an orphan.
He was orphaned.
He was an orphan.
And so grew up in this foster home where he was abused both physically and sexually
and mentally,
definitely mentally.
Yeah,
and of course, well, the thing is, though, we start off with him as a sailor in the Navy, and he gets in a fight like right in the beginning of the film, and he's sent to the psychiatrist, who's played by Denzel Washington, and basically has like eventually Denzel kind of breaks him down, and they have a bunch of meetings, and they form this bond, and that's basically what the story's about.
I mean, little facts. This movie, I mean, I love Roger Ebert. He gave this a 3.5 out of 4.
Oh, okay.
Like the Rotten Tomatoes is like 79.
Okay.
79%, yeah.
All right, so you got to break down because I never really understand the twist. So 79 is
so anything above 60% is considered fresh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And basically, what Rotten Tomatoes does is they take all the reviews that are ever written. There's 2. You can do top critics or all critics. So all critics, it could mean like anybody can write a review, basically. And if the review is overall positive, then it's like then basically it's like 79% of the reviews were positive for Antwone Fisher, and that means 21% of people gave it a negative review.
Okay.
So that's really what it is. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's more than a C+. That's really good.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah.
Right. 79.
It was really
pretty
good.
high. I mean, especially compared to the movies that we've done, right? Like 79 is a good one.
Yeah. And this movie was like definitely it was award bait kind of, or at least that's how the studio treated it. Like they put it out at a limited release in December so that it could potentially get Oscar nominations.
About it.
It didn't.
It's interesting because it's definitely one of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite movies, and I consider it an American classic because it is a very American story.
Absolutely.
And and it's just one of those things where I'm always confused by my own taste because I was like, I don't understand. And not on this sort of like on a very, forget about, Oscar's so white or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this on a very personal level. I'm confused as to why not everyone loves this movie like I do.
Right.
I have a theory on that. Watching this movie, and the thing is, I feel like I've rarely ever saying this. I think it's super racial. Only because I looked at the HBO description, because I saw this movie on HBO Go. And watching this movie, yes, Antwone Fisher was from a bad area. Yes, everybody involved in his life happened to be black. But to me, this could have been a white dude in this role and had an abusive
Absolutely.
place. And in the description on HBO Go, it describes him as a black. But I'm saying, it describes him as a black naval cadet, and I'm like, he could have just been a cadet. Like, why couldn't he just been?
Yeah,
right. So let's get into it. Right. So, just to wrap up, the box office wise, it made like 23 million, something like that. It cost like 12.5 million to make, so it made its money back, it did pretty much what an Oscar type movie does if it doesn't get the nomination.
They never make money.
Yeah, they never make. If they get a nomination, they usually get a little bit more of a boost. If it got a nomination, probably would have. It didn't, so it made like what you would expect. Want to do initial thoughts?
Yeah.
Do you want to go around the horn?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start. This is my first time seeing this movie, and I was fascinated because there's a lot of fresh, like we just talked about this, but like it's Derek Luke's first movie, it's Denzel Washington's directorial debut, and I was just fascinated in like it's about this guy who I don't know who he is or like what's it, and it's interesting because I was fascinated in how this movie got made, like what leads to a movie like this being made, this sort of underdog kind of thing. It didn't feel like a black thing. It only felt black for like the first 10 minutes when they refer to it. And then after it just feels like this. I called it it's Silver Linings Playbook, but with it's Silver Linings Playbook, but with a black guy, and like there's no dance number and there's no other. You know what I mean?
It's
like,
abuse. Ain't no abuse in Silver.
But you know what I mean? But
I feel like Room maybe is a more
or you know what I mean? It's like it's Room, but people aren't buzzing about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's Room, but without the buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never saw Room though?
I never saw Room. No.
Did you like this movie, James?
Yeah. No, I thought it was okay.
Okay.
James thought it was okay.
That was okay. We know where this is going to go. We know where this is going to go.
No, I thought the movie was okay. I thought the movie was.
We know where this is going to go.
It's
Victor, what was your initial thoughts?
my whole thing is I'm all about there's certain black films that really hit me because they are a very specific kind of American movie.
Right.
And so as you're talking about, it could have been any guy. It's like sorry, everyone in their family has had someone who's dealt with abuse, whether it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, this feeling of abandonment by family and searching for family. It's something you hear about all the time. And it was just sort of fascinating to me to sort of see the kind of vulnerability that you don't often see in your leads.
Yes.
So
100%.
Yeah, I agree with that.
100%.
And then, then as when we talk about the names again, so you're right. I thought Denzel did an amazing job in his first film directing. And Derek Luke was amazing in his first film piece. And then all of a sudden here's Viola Davis for for 2 minutes. And I remember them talking about, she should get an Oscar nomination. Is it, how there's every
for her role in this.
She didn't get one, but they were like, it's that thing in Entertainment Weekly where it's sort of like who got nominated, who should have gotten nominated, and she showed up, and it's there's always that one. It's Judi Dench, who is like they're on screen for 5 minutes, and it's like they need a nomination, but that was this sort of like bam, there's Viola Davis, and so it was just a beautifully made film to me, and I just sort of I don't know. I just think it's a story that's not sort of. I thought it was very sort of the pace of it. There's something about the pace of it and the way in which we were introduced to these characters. I thought all along this could have gone badly. It could have gone. It could have been really melodramatic, sort of over the top, and it was so subtle and amazing. I loved it.
Oh man, my initial thoughts of this, man, I feel like this is the first time I ever thought about race instantly. Like this movie immediately came to when I was while I was watching this movie, and Derek Luke to me had at least 3 or 4 moments where I'm like, oh, if he was to get nominated for an Oscar, this could be the scene.
It's this, yeah.
It could be this scene. And the thing is, I remember watching this and started thinking about Beasts of No Nation, and I'm like, okay, so we have another movie with a black director. Black actors. Like, Joy was great as the love interest.
Yeah.
She was strong. She rocked with him. I mean, and again, Viola Davis, God bless Viola Davis. Yo. Viola Davis, again, is in another movie for 6-7 minutes.
Yep.
I mean, when Viola Davis, when they say the name, and she's like, oh, that's the name of my friend, and just stops, and then her eyes literally swell up, and then she just turns away.
And walks away.
It's what do you... To me, what did this movie? It made me frustrated watching this movie because to me, like I was watching this movie and thinking this part of Antwone Fisher was a part that any black person would love to have. But then, as I thought about it, this is a part that any actor would love to have. Period.
Yeah, right.
And the thing is, this movie to me showed an African American man deal with human issues. They weren't black issues. Yes, it was abuse. Yes, he got whipped, but white people get beatings too, right? So there wasn't anything super heavily black about it, you know? And it's like this movie dealt with him being a human. And I feel like this movie is another thing that represents how you can't be seen as a human. It's like the only thing that can be nourished is like me being beaten as a slave or like he overcame struggle like throughout this movie, which is something, how often do we see that, especially with a black man?
Yeah.
Well, so the other thing is too, right, is that he overcame struggle with the help from another black man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like a white savior or anything. It was like a psychiatrist that usually that role would be filled in by.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting. I wonder. I don't have any. I couldn't find anything about it, but like I wonder if the psychiatrist was actually
in real life.
in real life was actually African American or not.
That's. I mean,
That's
do you think they would
interesting.
change that?
I don't know.
To get the movie made,
Well,
Denzel probably had to
Denzel-
get this movie.
Denzel would have
So
to been in
Denzel
it.
talked about how he had to be in it to get the movie made, to like for people to actually go see it. Like they had to
Right.
have some star. I would say like so for me, like I really enjoy this film. I thought this film was like really good. Now there are parts where I think it has that like Oscar type problem where like they indulge maybe just a tinge too much. Like the scene at the end where he sees his whole family. I was just like, how did they all get there?
Yeah, well,
How did they all get there like in 2 seconds? Like,
Yeah,
the
well,
entire
okay,
family.
yeah.
He was gone for a while. He was
but
gone
It's
for a
very
while.
emotional. It's very emotional.
Yeah,
It works.
yeah.
Like I started like I almost teared up because it like the scene is so powerful. And then there was like another part of my brain that was like they're doing this on purpose to make you tear up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the fact of the matter is he probably met these people like piece by piece, not like at this whole.
Well, yeah. In the Wikipedia
matched-
it says that he didn't find them all out until like way
later, yeah. But it matched the beginning, which I thought Denzel did a really good job as for his
I do
directorial
too.
debut. Like
That opening scene was
the
beautiful.
opening
Yes,
scene is so
with
beautiful.
the child,
The
you know,
child-
and
Child
then,
standing in like a field.
and then he goes to this. The whole
barn.
time watching it, I'm like, wait, is he dead? Not knowing his life story.
Right.
I'm like, is he dead? What's happening? I don't know.
Yeah,
That
he
child
goes to
actor
this
was really
barn,
good,
like,
too.
oh yeah, I've seen him before.
He's in
I've seen it
Lost.
before.
He's Walt on Lost.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
He's Walt in Lost. I was like, this kid
That
looks
kid is
so
great.
familiar.
That
He's
kid was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great as Walt in Lost.
Yeah, right.
And he is. He's amazing. And yeah, like the door opens and he sees what we find out is we don't find out until later. It's going to be his family. You just see all these black faces. They're all smiling, and then there's like this huge buffet or banquet, and then pancakes, which
Right.
is like the thing that makes him happy.
Yeah.
But that's how he knew it was going to be a good day. But I would say race stuck out to me just from the beginning because when he opens it up and there's all these black faces, and I was just like, when do you get to? You don't often get to see this, right?
No.
In
Yeah.
movies, in Hollywood films, with like. It's just unless it's like a movie about slavery.
About slaves.
Like, there's all these there's beautiful black faces smiling, and then I was like, and like all these actors that got roles and got to have parts and stuff like that. And I don't know, like to me, I was like, man, like, but then we call it because that happened. I feel like people are like, oh, so this is a movie for black people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is a movie that black people will love, but like it's not for white people.
Right.
But why?
I feel like it's also connected to that idea, right, of like people just go the Antwone Fisher story, and then they're like, okay, I don't know who Antwone Fisher is. Maybe he was some, you know what I mean? Like maybe he
Wait,
was
was he
some
exceptional? Wait, was he some exceptional black man?
Was he an exceptional Negro? Is what they always say in the movies.
But you know what I mean?
But it's sad because it's. I was thinking about after watching the movie again. I was thinking about the color. Color Purple's been on my mind a lot recently. And I think part of it is the thing was I was always confused when I was younger as to why the Color Purple. Color Purple is one of those movies that really affects white people too.
Yeah,
and I never understood why until recently when I saw it's on Broadway now, and there were like white people in the audience sobbing.
Yeah,
and it has everything to do with it. It's about everyone can relate to. You don't think I'm beautiful? Well, I'm beautiful, and I'm gonna prove you wrong, and then I see something like Antwone Fisher where I say, well, that's frustrating because it's the same thing. It's sort of it doesn't matter if it's a room full of black people. It's like it's a room full of they look beautiful. And
they're
look
people.
beautiful, and the food looked good. Like everything
definitely.
was just beautiful. And
Spielberg.
I mean, we can all relate. to
Spielberg did Color Purple, which was like at the time. I mean, he talks about it was like so controversial because it was a white person doing it. But James, I want to hit back to your thing about like Antwone Fisher. Can people relate? Can we relate to Leo's character in The Revenant? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's a white dude. Like my thing is, like, what makes that character relatable and so intriguing to watch? Whereas this person isn't.
That's the.
Right.
But is this person not? It's not. I don't even think it's that this person isn't relatable, right? Because the movie made what 23 million, so it didn't make like not a lot of people went to see it.
Right.
Like from the beginning, people are like, you know, like what from the marketing stages leads to people to not go.
I think because people saw it as a black film, which sometimes, because I feel like sometimes. I mean, look, I'm going to talk about me. We ended up on this podcast, we talked about it. We did Best Man Holiday. I didn't want to watch it. At no point could I tell you why I didn't want to watch it. I couldn't. I was like, I don't want to. Like, I thought of it as a black movie, and I thought of it as a bad thing. And it was just innate. It was like, I don't want to watch this. We watched it. We loved it. You know what I'm saying? Now I talk about that movie as like one of the best Christmas movies. But innately, I was like, this is a black film. I don't want to watch this black film.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe this happened even with Denzel. Is that?
Well, that surprises me because it's. I also assumed, and you guys know this better than I do. You can answer this better than I. Denzel Washington, I assumed, was at that point still a universal draw.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he was. I think it had that cross because he won the Oscar the year before.
Yeah.
Or the year it came
this
out.
came out
2012.
2002.
2002.
He
Why did I
won
say
the Oscar in 2002. So this came out later that year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he won the Oscar.
Yeah.
He had won the Oscar. I think it's really hard to say. Like we don't really know. I mean, it's just weird. Just so everybody knows and listeners too, the movie that won that year was Chicago. It was like the movies that were getting a lot of awards were like Chicago, Gangs of New York, Adaption.
But
I like Gang.
Adaptation.
Adaptation. Sorry.
But wait. But now I'm thinking about that
Adaption
year.
and adaptation are spelled the exact same way.
They are.
Right?
Yeah.
No,
adoption. No. No, they're not. Hold on, wait.
Adaptation.
There's a T. There's a
Wait, is there
TA
even a word?
You're missing. You're missing TA.
It's an extra T in there, right?
Wait, is
An
adaptation
AT.
a word?
I mean. What?
Is adaption a word?
I don't think adaptation.
I think
I think the word you're thinking is adaptation.
I think
Cool. So
that's what Braylock must be tired. That's something I would do.
but thinking about that,
Oh my goodness.
but thinking about the climate of movies, then right?
Listen, I'm good for one of those an hour. So
But he doesn't do that though. That's not a Braylock move though.
That's a very anti.
I just pulled it around.
Yeah, that's definitely not a Braylock move.
But think about the climate of the movies, right? Like if Chicago is what. First of all, I saw Chicago and loved that. But
Who doesn't like a good song and dance?
who doesn't like a good song and dance?
I love Chicago.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
But like
I would
Chicago
cover that.
is getting attention, right? And Gangs of New York is getting attention, and this.
But you
Also,
always have a small
just so you
movie
know,
that makes
Best
it in.
Actor, the Adrian Brody won that year for The Pianist.
For The Pianist, right?
Nicolas Cage was nominated for Adaptation. Michael Caine for The Quiet American, which we all know and love.
I mean, it just seems like no, but
Daniel Day-Lewis for Gangs of New York.
it seems like you
and
could
Jack
put this
Nicholson
movie.
for About Schmidt.
Okay,
Oh, Bosch
right.
was good.
So it feels like you can put this movie up there with those movies.
About
and
Schmidt?
It's just right about Schmidt.
Yes.
I remember that movie getting all kinds of buzz and being like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like,
You know what this could have been? This should have been Derek Luke's Winterbone. And if people don't know at home, Winterbone was Jennifer Lawrence's movie that made her
And put her
America's
on the map.
darling,
It's
if you will.
It's the first time everybody was like, "Who's?"
and she got nominated. And it's like this. I thought he was in almost every frame of this movie.
Yes.
unless
Yeah.
it was a scene where it was like Denzel and his wife, which was only 2 or 3.
Right.
He was in almost every frame.
and I was watching this and I
Good
said
looking
to
man too.
he is okay. Yes,
Handsome chocolate
he's
brother.
a good looking man.
Hold it down
right?
for the chocolate brothers.
And he is, and he's a great actor, right? And I turned to my girlfriend while I was watching this, and I was like, I remember just championing him so hard,
Chocolate
like,
Brothers.
at this time, especially at this time, being like, Derek Luke, we're about to see him in everything. And granted, he's still working,
He's a working actor.
but he's not like,
he should have blew. He didn't blow.
you know what I mean? Like
he's not a person who can greenlight a film.
Well, it's so interesting because the movies he did after this one, he was the co-lead. I guess he was the co-lead of Biker Boys.
Biker Boys.
Biker Boys, which made a profit, didn't do that well, but after that he did a string of Tyler Perry films, and I don't know if that
Was that before or after Notorious?
That was
I think probably
let me check.
before, right? Because
Let me
Notorious
check,
was
let me
when
Let me check.
Who was he in Notorious?
he was
Diddy.
Diddy.
Papa Diddy Pop.
He was Diddy.
I didn't see
He was great. He was great in that.
I mean,
What do you think? Do you think Derek Luke is a lead? Can he be qualified as a leading actor in Hollywood right now?
Not now, I don't think, but I think he should be. I mean, right now he's on. Right now he had a.
And by the way, this is nothing against.
Oh, no, he's great.
Yeah.
We're talking
no.
about the industry. Like this is one of the things we try to like figure out on like why do people? Because who knows? We know it happens. It happens to white actors. It happens to what all color
Right.
actors. But it does seem like for leading black actors, they don't necessarily pop off when people think that they would.
Right.
And we're trying to figure out why that is. Like because he doesn't. Did Derek Luke get the opportunity? Like, or did he? Or was he just like not really given the roles to achieve? You know what I mean?
I mean, I think this is a challenge that every actor has, but I think
Yeah.
it's obviously magnified as a black actor. I think that I think what comes into question are the roles that were available for him
Right.
to play.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's something that happens. So speaking of Denzel Washington, not everyone. I think that Denzel's career is an anomaly. Like it's like I think that I think
not
that
everyone is a Denzel Washington.
Well, but beyond that, I mean, also the assumption that he therefore can be the lead in every movie. I think that what happens more often than not is you go through a period where you are possibly maybe you are the lead, and then you go through a period where you're not, and then my prediction is that what is he now? 35? Derek Luke, something like that.
41.
Wow.
Black don't crack.
Wow.
I just looked it up. 41, born in 1970.
A lot of Well, that's the other thing that we talk about. We haven't talked about it in a while, but a lot of the leading black actors that we have are actually older.
Right.
They're
It takes them that
very
long to
little
pop.
because it takes a long time for them to pop. It takes a long time for them to get this first opportunity, where it doesn't seem to be the again. It's just we're talking about on a general level. It doesn't seem to be the case sometimes for some white actors, like just because in terms of the roles that are available. Like Antwone Fisher, I think we talked about this in our Oscar episode, where like people, and I saw people post about this and stuff like that. People were like, we need people of color need like roles like a Carol or a Brooklyn or a.
That's what this was.
That's what this.
Or a Room or the Danish Girl, right? But this is what I'm saying is like
Yeah.
people are talking about like they need like black actors and people of color need like roles where they don't have to be like a legendary figure or somebody who's like super exceptional, or they want a role like Joy where it's just like the inventor of a mop or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so
It's the
this is what this
miracle mop,
was. And I
right?
was watching this movie. I was like, that's what this is. Like this is a guy. He didn't do anything famous. He just like. He had the human spirit, like survived. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this terrible ordeal, and like made something of himself. And we're exploring all these different things through this character. But like, how many times do we get something like this? You know what I mean?
Well, to me, I look at this and I look at
Not a
Creed,
lot.
right?
Not a lot, right?
I look at this movie and Creed, base level, two men trying to come over an internal struggle, right?
Right.
That's it. They just happen to be black. Neither one of those roles was rewarded with anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, what does that, to me, it's like, what does that say? And I bet you, again, I'm going to bring this up, and I'm not saying the movie's going to be bad, but I bet you Birth of a Nation's going to get almost every nomination.
Right.
Again, and that means we're going to have a gap of 2 years, which is another slavery stuff. I mean, think about TV right now.
Underground's doing good, y'all.
Roots is coming back.
I heard it's great though.
I heard it's great. Them slaves are running.
Okay, wait. So then with this, oh god.
That's what the movie.
So then
that's
with
what the
this
show's
movie,
about.
right? If we go through it, you said, Jerah, that there are at least 3 moments that stand out to you as his Oscar
could
moments.
be more.
Okay, yeah, let's go. You want
Right?
to go through 'em?
Well, yeah. So the first one, though, for me, and this probably isn't one for anybody else, but it's literally the very beginning when they're like, he's like, this started from a racial slur we heard, and then he just goes to the other guy and he's like, was this a racial slur? And he's like, no. And then like just the look on his face of
I'm about to jack you.
right, like,
And he turns to him.
like that, like, and just the way
And
he
it wasn't. And it wasn't.
and
a
it was,
racial
and it
slur.
wasn't, but
it
the,
was not.
Which is because I actually had to rewind that. I was like, wait, did he call?
No, it wasn't at all.
but the way he like,
You know, it's funny you say because I remember also that he actually said nothing, but in my mind as a black man, it's like, yeah, but he said
But he
it in
said
a
it, though.
scene
Said it.
that we didn't see.
Yeah, it was built up. It was built up. But no,
I know, I know.
And then later-
I was
and
like,
then-
I was like, oh, this is how. But this is how, like, what, people like we're giving him the benefit of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
but then so then it's in the So then he's in the therapy session, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to do whatever for the white man." And he's like, "Oh, just that bit,
Right.
Of like
The
sort of like
anger.
the underlying,
Yeah.
the seething anger. I love it. I love
See,
it.
I also like
Great.
just to piggyback because I thought Derek Luke killed it in this movie, bro. Like
did.
the thing is, watching this movie, I was like, what? And again, I know Derek Luke is working, but to me, like Derek Luke deserved so much after this. Like that scene where he's like, when Denzel tells him his three sessions are up, and he gets into a fight, and he's in the waiting room, and he goes around, "Do you need a healing? Do you need a healing? Do you need a healing?" And then he goes up to him, and he talking about what the good doctor will do behind closed doors, and
Right.
just the vein on his neck is just so
Honestly-
intense. And he stops, and he has like he gets intense, stops, like literally asks a question, and goes right back. And I'm like, oh my, like dude.
Honestly, can I say something a little controversial? I think he outacted Denzel in this movie.
Okay, well, hang on.
Oh,
Wait. I mean, I'm not saying
No,
this
no,
is
no,
nothing
that's
bad
not-
about that. I think
that's fair to say.
Denzel did great because he did his thing. I
Yeah.
love Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
Wait, what were you gonna say?
I think that's possible, but the thing I thought about too is, well, wait a second. Denzel, this is Denzel's first directing.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like he probably like gave him a lot of like.
Oh, he coached this
he
boy.
yeah.
Right.
Right.
He coached
Totally.
and
Totally.
it's
so yeah,
the
Denzel
Antwone-
deserves the credit.
But right,
As
and
well.
it's the Antwone Fisher story written by Antwone Fisher.
Right.
So like the moments are, you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
moments to
Yeah.
outact
Yeah.
are given to him anyway. You know,
Wait,
But
Like,
also,
two
like,
more-
also,
okay.
like on the side, you think like Denzel like pulled it back a little bit because he wanted this boy to shine.
I think he did.
you know, he was probably, he had some moments of like, I could just slip.
No.
Well, just because,
I think he did.
in that one scene, that scene that you're talking about, where he was like doing the healing, and Denzel was just like, "You done? In my office?"
Yes.
I thought he was gonna blow up on like,
Yeah.
but he didn't. He didn't do it. It was much more reserved, which actually was kind of cool to see because I was like, we don't see this kind of.
Because it's
Denzel.
hard being pulled back, and I also think that Denzel gave him directing wise, he gave him his time on camera without
Right.
cutting away.
Yeah.
Like, can I just add one more? I mean,
Oh, yeah, no, I was
Derek
gonna
Luke
say-
had some great ones, yo. Derek Luke had another scene later on when after he graduates, what is it, Japanese class?
Yeah.
Graduation, yeah.
Graduation, and Denzel takes him to the bathroom and tells him, which is messed up that he told him, "Hey, we got to cut this off."
Yeah.
the
I
day
know.
he
Oh my
went.
god, Tessa.
I was like, "Why you
But
tell
so-
him that day?"
In the bathroom.
In the bathroom.
My girlfriend. So my girlfriend has like a master's in psychology, and her father's a psychiatrist as well. And hello, Dr.
Tessa getting
Hirsch,
a shout out.
just in case you're listening. But like she was like when that scene happened, she was like, he's the worst psychiatrist. Like, why would you tell a person with abandonment issues on the day of like their success that you're in like the bathroom, like I'm cutting this off? Like
the day
that
they
is not
invited
how
everybody.
you do that.
He
Yeah.
invited his wife. You gonna tell him that day?
But that, and
Come
yes.
on.
He has abandonment issues, and you're like, and I'm
But
done.
that was another moment. That was another moment too, where like where it almost felt like Denzel was about to crack, but he didn't let it. You know, like,
and by no means am I like trying to defend like
oh yeah,
Sir Denzel Washington. But it's like, if I can use a basketball analogy, it's like all the years that Michael Jordan won the MVP award, and then the one year he gets beat out by Karl Malone is like, yeah, Karl Malone won the MVP, but come on. It's
right,
Michael Jordan.
right.
It's like, yeah, Derek Luke acted his ass off.
And then also Denzel directed it, so it's like, hey man, you go imagine Denzel on set. You gotta do that again. Denzel didn't let that shot go until that shot was perfect.
That's the thing about that, and about them working together too, because the weight of the moment when he's like, but wait, what happened? What was his friend's name?
Jeff? Was it Jesse or Jeff?
Jesse. And it's the two of them together that's making this moment. But the moment when Denzel asks what happened to him, it's like, whew.
And the dude tried to go to the bathroom, and he's like, "Get out!"
Yeah, that was.
And he like, that's when he snapped. He's like, "Get out!"
Right.
That's when you get that Denzel
great.
New Yorker.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, can we? Because Braylock and I were talking about this. I feel like this movie has a lot of things that are taboo in the black community, like spankings, a vulnerable black man. Like, I feel like there's so
even
much.
honestly, even like going to a psychiatrist.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I thought about that. I mean, that stigma still exists in like American society in general.
Yeah.
Like, it's becoming less and less, but I think it's still there where like people are like, oh, you're going to a psychiatrist? Like, where like therapy is looked on as like there's something wrong with you and you shouldn't have to go to therapy. I think we're eroding that, but I think in the black community,
it's still there, man.
It's still there.
And there's the one officer's like when they're in the club. He's
homophobic stuff.
Homophobia is in there too. So like, this touches on a lot of things.
Where do we start?
Where do we start?
And then abandonment issues because he another black man without a dad.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that.
Which one, the dad one
or I don't know. What do you?
I mean, it's so much. I mean, it's.
So this is the thing that I will say. Like, I do think, as much as we're saying this is like a universal film, which I think it is. This is the type of film that I like the most, which is like a film that can be universal, but also does touch on issues in the African American community specifically,
right?
Without it being alienating,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, and one of those things is like abandonment. So, even though in this story, like Antwone Fisher's father was murdered, his mother abandoned him, and she was in jail, and so like this is like. And he just didn't know his father.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a father figure in his life because it was just the foster mom.
Yeah.
And we didn't, right? Like,
She's a foster mom. And it was
foster
abuse.
mom.
It's abuse in this movie that happens.
Foster mom. I feel like, the Reverend wasn't, though. Was the Reverend the what? Like, husband?
That actually confused me.
It was. The Reverend was
the father, but we like never saw him.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
Yeah, you never saw him. But it's tricky because it's the thing of, this movie does touch on, so like his dad is killed, his mother is the one who abandons him, and he even says at one point to Denzel after he meets her, who is Viola Davis, who, God bless Viola Davis, I keep saying I love her.
God bless her. Viola Davis, God bless her.
She's so good, she's so good. But he even says, I met my mother, and if I don't see her again, he does a shrug,
okay.
He's good. And I as a person, I really don't know my dad. As a matter of fact, I just had a birthday. He does not know when my birthday is and does not know how to spell my name to this day. So I'm assuming my birthday's been over for 3 days.
Wow.
So I'll probably get a text message because I always get a text message.
He knows like the window of where it is.
So it'd be like before or after. So it was like 2 days ago. So I'm assuming it might come on. What's the day? Might come in 2 days. Be like, happy birthday. But how he said he feels about his mom, I was like about my dad. It's like, you know what? You didn't define me.
Yeah.
Like you didn't break me. So it's like, why do I?
I grew up in spite
of you. And I think that's a thing that a lot of African Americans deal with. Normally it's the dad, but in this film it happens to be the mom, which I think is very interesting. Because both of his parents are kind of terrible people, I guess, if you think about it.
I mean, the dad got. I mean, you can say it like. I'll talk about this. Like I'm lucky enough to like my dad and my mom were both in my life, but
And they bought us toothbrushes and toothpaste, y'all.
They sure did. I'm
sure
using,
did
I'm
after a
using that
show.
toothpaste right now. I just opened it.
He works
I
for Colgate.
just opened it.
It's mine.
Victor didn't get it.
We should have one. But his family, he actually lived with his father, but his parents were divorced. My grandparents were divorced. And my grandfather, I'm not, hopefully nobody in my family thinks I'm speaking ill, but like he slept around. Like he had 5 wives. And he had kids that we just found out about. So like there was certain things, again, like it was just like the idea of, because I remember like Tessa was like watching, and when there was that scene where all the family meets and they're all like loving and embracing him, Tessa was like, I don't know if that's realistic, if they would like just accept this stranger. And I was like, actually,
no, baby.
And actually, I was like, actually, like there are literally cousins that up until like 4 years ago, I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
And my dad didn't know he had this brother. And then like, because my grandpa was sick at some point, all of a sudden like more information came out, and there was like, oh, there's this half brother that I have that I didn't know about. And that brother has children. With those children are my cousins. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and we were family, like just like that. You know what I mean?
I've definitely seen it in some of my friends where I dated someone years ago who she told me that when she was, 13, 14 years old, and all of a sudden she'd find out about a sister or a brother, she would get really angry. But it's like she was 13, 14 and sort of like, where's my territory?
Right.
Yeah.
But by the time she was 30, 35, it was sort of like, that's the way Dad was. Hey, like, so nice to meet you. Where are you from? And then all of a sudden it became this thing where it was constantly sort of a new sort of family reunion. It was very forgiving and odd to me, but it's real. Like I've seen it happen.
Yeah, and I identify with that very much. I lost my dad when I was 2. He took his life, so he left me in a different way. But it's the same sort of feeling. There's points in this movie that I identified with very much. The moment when I do a play about this, and so I went home and did this play a couple years ago. This is my first time yes,
it was great.
And this is my first time talking about this feeling of being abandoned by him, and so there's a moment in the movie when he calls, and the woman's like, "Why? What makes you call this late?
3 a.m.
This late,
20 years later,
and 20 years later, and this right." And after the play, everyone's like, I didn't know you felt like that. You can always talk to us. Why'd you take so, right? Like, that's one thing, right? And then there's this other one of, I didn't know him at all. So there's this moment in the movie when they're like, he do look just like, he looked just like, and there's this thing of like, I don't know who this person is, right? Like, I don't know what that, I don't know what that feeling is, but that like, where when people see that and they recognize it, they embrace it. Like that feeling of like you have this bit that we don't have anymore.
Yeah.
So
weird.
and like
so heavy, right?
Yeah.
Because
crazy.
that's what I was looking at that. I'm like, oh, like like when the grandma's like coming up and she's just like staring into his face, and I'm like, this is so weird for him. Like, I don't know who this person is, but she sees her
right. Yeah.
son.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like she sees her son who she lost, and it's like, but it's just this weird, exchange that's happening where he's getting a family that's a stranger to him, but he needs family.
Right. Here's the thing. I mean, I keep going back to sort of American story thing. It's like, and I think I'm very sensitive to it now, just because the climate of the country and everything sort of feels like you're either with your particular tribe and like nothing else
very
exists.
Tribal, very team based.
Yeah.
Yes.
And while I agreed, I did think at the end, it's like, how do you get all those people in that house in Cleveland at the end of the show?
Yeah.
But I also felt that there was this thing that I've experienced in my family where it's sort of like life happens, everyone's trying to sort of survive, do their thing, and there's a moment of, you kind of, even though it's not like our lives are perfect, but you kind of got forgotten. Like there was, I felt like that's very real. That when people sort of have an acknowledgement, more of an acknowledgement of, we're sorry that you had the road that you had.
Right.
You're still family.
Yeah.
And I believe
Yeah.
that people have that. I really do believe that no matter like what you're talking about in your life, it's sort of like, it's whatever point, if you're courageous enough to seek out loved ones, that in fact, if you find them, that there will be people, they're not guaranteeing that there's going to be a better life, not guaranteeing that everything's going to be good, but it's sort of, there's an acknowledgement of, we know it's rough out there. Welcome.
Right.
You know?
And just to like speak out to people who perhaps who are listening who are like, well, I don't have that. I don't have the bloodline family. The thing that I do, it doesn't have to be like a blood, like that's what this guy's story was, which was beautiful, I think. But the first family member that he finds is Denzel Washington, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing, is like it's a psychiatrist who had nothing, and like and Denzel immediately like says at the end was like, me and my wife tried to have a child, we couldn't, and that left like a scar. It devastated her. She got help. She kind of got over it, but I never got that help that I needed. Stigma in the community, about seeing a psychiatrist, because he is a psychiatrist, but then like when he started developing this relationship with Antwone, he realized, oh wow, I am missing. Like there's a familial thing that I'm missing it, and just because of the bloodline doesn't exist, doesn't mean you can't have a family, right?
Yeah.
It can be your friends, it can be the adoptive family or whatever. Like, but so I just wanted to put that up.
And by the way, I do think I really did like that that storyline, because it was confusing. Every time I've watched it, it's fascinating how it sort of presents itself, because it sort of is like,
very
wow,
subtle.
he's very right, and it's sort of like, wow, it's like he's stiff arming him a little bit.
Yeah.
But then when it's revealed why, I'm not saying it was the best execution of that, but it was the idea that no, it's like, this isn't the lesson being that yes, people abandon for different reasons, and to be able to say, this is what I've been going through, and to sort of understand that. I don't know, I thought it was something about that sort of added dimension to the film that.
Yeah. Also, he
great.
like Denzel, as a psychiatrist, he should not be hanging out with a patient. I mean, that's just legal.
Right.
That's
the
the
Navy, y'all. See, y'all. You see, your wife. You guys say it's
keep it
different.
Navy.
It's different in the Navy.
Keep it Navy.
Is it different? It's like yo, you got like, I understood when he did it, but also the psychiatrist, right? I feel like in the black community, you don't say you go to a shrink. Like you just don't do it.
Yeah,
and
I mean, when he admits it to the girl, he says like, "You don't want to hang out with me anymore, right? You don't want to."
But she was
because
like,
it's admitting.
I already knew first of all.
Because like admitting something's wrong. And to me, everything goes back to like strength. It's like black men and strength, right?
Yeah,
and we have to always be strong. So if you go to a shrink, that means you're going to someone for literally help.
Help.
And you, as a man, sometimes like you shouldn't need help, right?
Yeah. Right. Well, that's and then I think that's like an old way of thinking that
it is.
Hopefully, we start to get over, because like to me, it's like actually a sign of strength is to sometimes be able to like, I need help right now, like to be like, I am strong enough and more like, you know what I mean, confident enough in myself that it doesn't ruin me to say that I need help in an area that like he obviously needed help in. Like he was abused, and the same thing goes for people who are abused of a sexual abuse, right? It's just like that happens. Do you want to talk about the spanking or
I mean, I just wanted to because we're talking about strength too, and we're talking about people that need help and not asking for help. The moment when Denzel asks him to come to Thanksgiving, he puts on in the act of like, what'd you do wrong, but he does it as if it's an act that like, I'm joking around with you, but actually he doesn't want, you also feel this underlying thing of like, he doesn't really want it. Like he puts on a front, and it's just like this immensely complicated moment of
because you can't, it's that thing of like, you can't be, think about how often, besides, a movie where a black man's going to be, how often do we see a vulnerable black man on screen?
You don't.
Like a vulnerable one. For instance, there's a point in this movie which I think is so beautiful where he does lose his virginity, but Joy, because I know that's what the scene is, but it's like Joy comforts him when he is like he's looking out the window. You could tell he's stressed, and it's just, when do you see a man just lean into his woman like that? He just he just leaned in and just accepted, I need you here. Like the fact that she was there, he admitted, I need you here. And that rarely ever happens. I mean, it happened in Creed, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to keep bringing up the fact that these two movies had two young black men trying to become men and got no love for it.
Right.
Because it is, it's like,
Don't be a man.
No love from an organization.
Yeah,
for a
no-
different
From
organization.
specifically the Academy Awards.
or Golden Globe. Yeah, whatever. But it's,
Yeah,
but no, but it's the thing of like, can
Globes,
you be a basic level human? Is what
Right. Well, there's that, but there's also, I mean, I think it's also an interesting question because we could say, yes, it's something that we don't see enough on screen because of the industry, but you can also,
is it reflective of the
but do black audiences want to see it?
exactly?
Right. Yeah.
True.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I know that black audiences want to see more than just slaves, but do they want to see this level of vulnerability?
Can I bring a point?
Well, that's what
yeah.
There's a thing that came out. There's a, oh my goodness, I'm going to look up the publication right now. But Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler are on the cover of, I think, Variety.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
And in this photo, Michael B. is cuffing Ryan's head.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And the thing is, to me, it's like nothing is more loving than saying to one of your boys, "I love you, man." Like it's
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I feel like that's what you do. And
Yeah.
now people are in an uproar because one of the articles that came out was, why do people keep emasculating black men?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that.
I know. I was so upset about that.
It's like,
Why is that emasculating? It's not Also, just our society in general has this weird thing of like having to label like, are you gay? Like you have to be it's like
who cares?
It's like this
Yeah.
weird thing of like people like it's okay for two hetero males to like be loving to each other.
fine.
Like it's okay. Like that's fine. And I think it happens. It's in all the communities, but in the black community, it's a little bit more prevalent, and it's these weird like this intersection of like, yeah, sure, maybe sometimes the black male was emasculated,
Yeah.
like especially in the past, you know. But I feel like we can get over that reaction to that. Like it's the whole blaxploitation thing of like the black superhero essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like Shaft and Superfly, like all that stuff was like a reaction to black people being like, we are strong, we're not going to be emasculated anymore.
oh yeah, they can beat up everybody, they can have sex with every woman they
so
want.
They became like more than human, like this is supernatural human. But now it's like we can get back to it's okay for a black person just to be human. They don't have to be below, and they
Right.
don't have to be above.
Right.
It's just like we're equal.
And to your question of like, do black audiences want to see that? I wonder what the answer
true. I
is
don't know.
because I feel like it's connected to, you know, like it's in the community, right? That there's a stigma about like being strong and that sort of thing, right? So like you know, man up. Obviously, people say it everywhere, but if I go back home, I feel like the weakest person
Right.
there, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I imagine if I were to say part of what I love about Antwone Fisher is that this man goes through this beautiful journey, I would hear stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I would get flack for that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you like that he was feeling some shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like I would get that from. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
granted,
man.
I might have
Right.
like everyone in my family actually might love Antwone Fisher. Might be their favorite movie. Might be a DVD. And I don't know, right? Because I haven't brought that up to them. But because of the stigma, that's how I feel about it, right?
Right.
So I don't.
That's what the
it's a good
perception
question. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Would people want to see
Well,
it?
all the articles about Ryan and Michael picture mainly were black publications.
Yeah.
that were
No,
like,
definitely.
they were all black publications who weren't okay with it. And I'm like, you know, these are two grown men who we like. You, my thing is, first off, yeah, I don't want to get to it, but it's like, yeah, it's would the audience want to see it? Right now, based on that photo that came out, 3 weeks ago?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, has there ever been a movie about like let's take it. Has there been a movie with a black gay male lead?
First of all, there hasn't been a movie with a gay man. We've talked about
Yeah,
it.
we were because remember we were
Other than
trying to find-
so we reviewed the film To Wong Fu.
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you for everything, Julie Newmar.
Yes.
It's the full title.
That
but
is the full title.
And so Wesley Snipes is gay in that movie, and so is John Leguizamo and Patrick Swayze. But there's never been a film about like a gay man that's played by a gay man.
Oh,
In Hollywood,
That's like a
that leading
major
motion picture.
Yeah. Not a major one. Yeah.
Not that we knew of. And nobody corrected us. So.
I mean, this
Right.
thing.
we could be wrong. We're usually
No,
wrong.
yeah,
for stuff,
yeah.
but-
we're-
I mean, this
we
movie
could be
hit
totally
on
wrong.
this. Like, I mean,
yeah,
the abuse, the spankings, which is something like people talk about nowadays. Like, do you beat your kids? Do you not? I mean, I got beat, but like this, he got tied to a pole and beat with a wet rag.
So like my girlfriend and I, we
y'all having babies?
we gonna have babies. Not yet. We ain't got plans for a baby yet, but we gonna have babies. You know.
Why are you doing that?
But we. So we had a talk.
He just got mad.
He got all swole up.
We got. Well, yeah, you know we having babies.
He individually pointed his finger at each one of us and winked.
Yeah, and he got super tough. He's like, oh yeah, man, you know we gonna have babies out
He
here.
stood up and pointed and said,
I said it. But yes, we do plan on having children. And we got into a fight. You know, like this was whatever. It wasn't something that I have put a lot of thought into, but we got into a fight about our opinions about like spanking, and child abuse, and I now after talking to her now have to actually look deep inside myself and rethink this and read articles.
Did she want no spanking?
But
you want it?
That is exactly right.
I was the same exact argument.
Yeah, so I was like
lost.
No, I definitely lost.
Which side were you on though?
You wanted spanking or you didn't?
I grew up being
spanked, right?
Getting spanked, and I was like, and I feel good about it. Like I was like, no, it taught me discipline and this stuff.
Exactly.
And then I was like, but if I was like, oh, there is a lot of. There's like, it's so easy to go off that, like, the narrow road, I think, that's spanking.
Right.
That, like, if you were doing it in a dutiful way, without anger, without, like, doing it because you were annoyed or tired.
Yes.
Because the thing is, we see it all the time. Everybody, we live in New York. We see it all the time. Like,
on the train.
Like, mothers who are honestly overworked, tired, upset, and they hit their children. And you're hitting your child not because you're trying to discipline them. You're doing it because you want them to shut up.
You just want them to stop, yeah.
And like they sometimes they're doing like honestly just kid things. They're just like, hey, look at this, or like playing on the pool or whatever, and it's like stop, bah! And you're like, all right, that wasn't necessary.
And it's crazy too because like I was in the same boat. Like I was 100% behind it because I felt like I was spanked and I feel like I am who I am today because of that, right? But then another part about my childhood that I remember is I remember a cousin of mine getting hit by like an ashtray or something, and I cried. Like alone, not alone, but away from the parent with my cousin because I was like, that shouldn't have happened to you. And my cousin was like, no, that, you know what I mean? Like my cousin was like, no, this is what happens. And so the line, right, is this weird thing, but then so my girlfriend is like, no, it is abuse, 100% abuse. We're watching this movie and then the guy gets, they get whipped by
white rag,
and I'm like, this wasn't what I meant by spanking, and she's like, no, this is all of it.
Yeah, so that's how you look at that. I'm like, well, that's obviously abuse. He like tied her.
I mean, but that's where it gets tricky because then it's like, where do you draw the line?
Where do you draw the line? Well, I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I'm not down with it, but but I can't say I grew up where spanking was the thing, but. I have a daughter now, and I learned my daughter's mother was adamant about it not happening. So I didn't understand initially, and then right away I understood that this is not something that's going to happen in my household, and it's something that I don't want.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time seeing it. I don't judge as harshly as when I see it. Yeah, when I see other people do it, I'm not down with it though. I remember seeing it actually recently over on like Franklin Avenue. It wasn't even that it was like the dad was annoyed with his daughter. And he put his hand up and she flinched, and it was the flinch that jacked me up.
Yeah,
it was like, why do you want a child? Like, why do you want your child flinching? Mm-hmm. Like that? You're creating a behavior. You're training a kind of behavior, and it's like, do you want that?
Right?
Do you want that? So
that's also an interesting visual too, because that's a dad like putting his hand up to a young daughter. I'm wondering, would that same effect happen if it was a dad doing that to a son? And I think it's...
Right.
I think it does to a lesser extent, but yeah.
Because it's interesting, because it's like, I always...
And even a mother putting her hand to her son.
Who was the...
I had this... Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, man, I don't feel bad.
You go ahead. I got one that's legendary.
I don't know, because my parents listen to this. I don't want them to think I'm like bad talking to them. I'm not. But no. I would say like because my dad was the one who spanked me with like a belt, right? But I the most shocked I ever was with my mom, because my mom never really spanked me, but there was one time where my mom hit me, and that was the most shocked that I was, because I was like, oh, and for some reason that felt more wrong.
Yeah, well, because you weren't used to it.
Because I wasn't used to it.
You had an understanding that, like, this, if I get upset, if I do something wrong, my dad will punish me in this way.
Right.
But you developed that as an understanding.
Right.
You didn't develop
like,
an understanding.
Like, this is okay. And
right.
It's the same thing as, like, yeah, there's something about the tying up to that.
I remember when I got beat in the mall one time. All right, because I wanted to go to the mall. I was going to Toys R Us. No, KB Toys. My mom was like, I'm going to take you. She took me to a shoe store instead, which was downstairs. And I was like, yo, I'm safe. Because my mother never, like, beat me in public. You know what I'm saying? I never got beat in public.
But so you thought you were safe. Oh, like, you remember having the feeling
I remember having that feeling of, like, all she can do is be like, be quiet.
Wait, what did you do?
Well, okay, this is the thing. This is what I did. So mind you, the way Iverson Mall works is the shoe store was right below KB Toys. Right below it. We all knew it. Steps, not the escalator, steps went right to it. So I'm like, boom. I'm going to wait by the door, and I'm going to sit in the window.
No.
I remember, I'm going to sit in the window. And it's like, this is my thing. You a kid. Like, I didn't know, like, dudes didn't wear heels or whatever. You can wear whatever you want. I didn't care. I was like, yo, I'm going to be here. I'm trying on shoes, too. I'm trying on these shoes. I'm trying on those shoes. And I'm in the window. Yo, when I say my mom, like, it was like one of the movies, like, when I say my mom beat me in the store, yo, and people were on board.
Yeah.
Like, I remember it. People were like...
Wait, people were cheering or something?
Not cheering, but no one was like looking... No one was like, don't beat this... It was like deserved. It was like you see a kid talk back to their mom and the mom snaps.
Yeah.
It was like,
wait, but
good
were
for
you
you.
Talking back?
Yeah, like what exactly were you?
I was like making a bunch of noise. I was like, I want to go to the toy store. I want to do this. Fine. Well, I'm gonna be over here. I remember being loud.
Everybody
I remember being
shut
loud.
that kid.
Yeah,
I remember
somebody need
it.
to slap that kid.
Yeah, whose child is this? I remember it. I mean, I deserve that one.
All right, I don't know if you deserve it, but
yeah. I mean,
are you serious?
No, because here's the thing:
please.
you deserve to be disciplined in that moment. But did it need to be you got hit? You know, like, and that's what. But
that's the essence. Yeah, that's the essence.
But that's
of the question.
that's my question too. That's why I have to like look inside myself and like figure out if I don't want to spank my kid. You know what I mean?
Example?
Just because I'm used to. Yeah.
But you know, Denzel, his character gives Antwone Fisher the book.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
the slave mentality book, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was it called?
I don't know.
I was like, I want to read that book.
Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing.
Well, it's an interesting concept because he's like, it's been passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was so interesting when he said
I did
was
too.
Like, whoa, that was like mind blowing to me because you're like, why?
Because
do
a lot of white parents don't beat their kids; they put them in timeout.
No, some do.
Some
like, my
do.
mom
I
got
mean,
beat too,
yeah.
But there was a different way though. It wasn't just the beat. It wasn't just the physical discipline. It was the humiliation. It was like using physical discipline to humiliate them, and then on top of that was that she kept calling them nigger.
She did, and they knew
that was like the real.
And
like,
they knew their
why?
name based on how she said it.
Yes.
Yeah, like why are you doing that?
Even
And
when he
what
comes
is-
back as an adult, she does it.
When you talk about moments of like the award moments, that was the moment for me.
Yeah.
It's like, he opens the door and she's like, nigga.
Yeah, and he's like,
Don't touch me. Like,
Yeah.
It was again using I'm sorry, I'm just in this color purple mode, but it was that moment of like, I'm still here, I'm still surviving.
Right.
It was like this
Yeah.
moment in the color purple where it's like,
Yeah, you try to destroy
I'm
me.
still here.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
What was her name?
but that's so
She was
interesting because
great, though.
if you
That
think
mom.
about that
Yeah,
mom,
she was great.
She didn't
was
think
great.
anything was wrong with it when she said,
Yeah,
because she was
neither
legit
of them.
welcoming him.
Novella Nelson.
They
She's
both.
amazing.
They
Amazing New York
both.
actress.
Amazing.
They both felt like the way they treated them when they were younger was valid.
The way it
because
was.
when they saw him, they welcomed him,
Right.
and both wanted to touch him, wanted to hug him. You know, like
They were proud of him.
like it was
Right.
nothing. Yeah, they were like, "Look at you."
Yeah, why don't you come around? Like, we made you.
Yeah. We're proud of you. And the thing is, it's so
Crazy.
trippy. It is, man.
What
like,
is your problem?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah,
weird.
what's wrong with you?
It's so weird that they didn't even have shame.
None.
But what would they have
Do it,
shame from? They didn't see
nigga.
anything
Didn't
wrong.
even know.
Get on
You know
it
what?
now.
Honestly, I've been like, I'm sorry to do this, but I've been listening. I saw the movie Spotlight, and then I've been listening to like this podcast reveal that like went in depth about like the whole priest scandal and like in other places too. And like when they interview priests, like almost all of them were just like, look, like people accuse people of things, but we, nothing. And like even the ones that like kind of admitted it were like, yeah, like something happened, like something bad happened, but like I'm not that person. Like they're so detached from like what they actually did.
Yeah.
Like the seriousness and like how devastating it was to like the child's life that they destroyed by like doing this. Like they're so detached from it. You kind of like, it boggles your mind
because
like,
they don't see it as normal. They see it as routine.
Yeah.
Like to them,
or
that's
even,
how you raise a
even
kid.
if they see it as like kind of wrong, they're like, yeah, maybe it's like a little over the line, but they don't really see the magnitude of it.
When she says, because I think it's after he has at least gotten a few jabs in, she still says, come in the house.
Yeah.
And that moment to me is just like mind boggling. That she would still like, let's just keep going. Like,
it's like, come on.
No, I'm not going to go in there with you.
Can I bring up another form of like, I won't say it's abuse, but it's just interesting. When Antwone meets his mom, Viola Davis, even when they're sitting on that couch, she doesn't turn to him.
Doesn't look at him.
She's
ashamed of it.
She's ashamed of herself, which is interesting to me because it's that thing of, for that moment to happen, right? She's ashamed. She probably feels, extremely bad for what happened. And for the next scene, for him to say, I saw my mother, and if I don't see her again, he shrugs. It's interesting because I feel like, I guess it's based on a true story, but how powerful would it have been if just there was like some type of acknowledgement or some type of hope, maybe?
Yeah.
That this family would have been, so it wouldn't have been like another broken black family, but I guess it's a true story. It's just,
to me,
I just think it's real.
it's real. It's real.
It was hard enough for me to. It was hard enough for Antwone Fisher to go this far.
Right. Exactly.
This is far enough.
Yeah. It's just real. It's like, and I think that it's okay. Like it's okay for him to keep going and not like. There are some things that are never going to be the ideal. Like not everybody gets to have like the perfect relationship with their parents, like with their biological parents even, So it was real. Anyway, I think it's time. I don't know how you're going to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, so we have this segment on the show called The Swirl, right?
Honestly.
And basically, hold on, let me explain the segment. So basically in major motion pictures, if there's a black man in a film, right? One, he's never usually the sex symbol. Like for instance, even in this movie, technically, yes,
just
it was
his character. His life is that he doesn't want to be sexual because of
all
his...
I'm just saying is usually when there's a black lead in the film, sometimes he is not sexualized, which I guess can be whatever. But if there's a white woman as his lead, you better trust and believe they're best friends, they're colleagues, they're not love interests. Literally, we go back to Manchurian Candidate with Denzel Washington and what's her name, Julia Roberts. In the original, there was an intense love scene. It was taken out.
Pelican Brief.
Pelican Brief, Pelican Brief, taken out. We think back to Beverly Hills Cop, scene taken out. So, I like to point out that movies could have a swirl. Now we come to this movie. All right. Antwone Fisher.
You better do it with the right character.
Yeah, the right character in the right moment.
This is the thing. Because
if you don't, I'm shut you down.
I don't even remember seeing a white woman in this movie at all. But I'm going to say this. I feel like I've only done it once. I feel like this movie doesn't need a swirl.
Uh-oh.
I feel like it doesn't need one because I feel like Joy, the character of Joy, was so strong and so powerful that I was just happy that,
of course.
That's all you... Because the only reason I say that because usually there's a scene where, I thought about doing one where, when he was young and, but whatever, and he had, a little girlfriend down the street.
The social worker woman?
Someone who just showed love. But I was like, you know what? I like Joy. I like that Joy was in this movie. I liked her character. I liked that she supported him. But I thought that she was, super strong and didn't take no bull. So you know what? There is no swirl.
This is a swirlless movie.
She was great, even though this movie did fail the Bechtel test. I have to point that out. But
every scene that she... Did she not talk to another woman in this?
No.
Failed what?
So there's this thing called the Bechtel test where it's like if two women don't talk to each other about something other than a man, that's the test.
They have to be in this. Yeah.
To show
there's a couple things, right? But that's one of them for sure.
I think the main one is does this movie portray women talking to each other
About
without
anything.
talking about a man.
Yeah.
And doesn't it also have to like further the plot in some way? That scene,
Yes,
right?
they should-
Like
but
that scene
it's a
should
couple
further
of things
the
to
plot,
check off.
and
Right.
it's
Oh,
not a scene
I
where they're
think the
talking
right.
about the male lead. Yeah,
Well,
The
it
main
pa-
one to me is that it's like there's so many films where two females don't even talk to each other.
right. Yeah,
Period.
And then if they do, they are talking about.
They're talking about a guy.
Yeah.
They're talking about a man, like a mother and then the daughter. Like,
Well, yeah, maybe.
wait, but I do want to say, I'm gonna add a swirl.
What?
What?
Uh-oh.
It's not gonna be
What?
with Antwone Fisher though,
He
man.
feels like it
that's
has
the
to
wrong.
happen. He feels like it has
So
to happen.
what's our man's name who is also in Barbershop?
Oh,
He was in Friends.
yeah.
He's such a sweet guy, man.
You're talking about the
Pork chop.
Pork
yeah,
chop.
pork chop.
Pork chop.
Pork chop. That actor is like, man, he's great.
He was
so
great in
lovable.
this. Yeah.
So they're all sitting around. They all got ladies on
Oh,
there.
that's right.
Why couldn't he could have had a white lady on his lap?
Listen, man,
And we could have had one kiss. We
He-
could have had a little kissy kiss.
he ain't the lead though.
So it doesn't matter. He doesn't need to be the lead.
he needs to be the lead.
No, it doesn't always have to be
I
the
think
lead.
I think the last time Braylock
Yeah,
did one, it was
I didn't
not
do
the
the
lead.
lead.
He
I don't
just
do leads. I don't do
He's
leads.
a secondary.
I don't do leads. All right, I'm just talking about it. We see it in film. We just the image, just the image itself. You know what I mean? So he's just sitting
You
there.
know, it would have been justified storyline if Pork Chop did have a lady, because that would have even further isolated Antwone Fisher.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey man, he's like, what's happening, Antwone? And then
See how
Pork
the
Chop's just
swirl
like, Pork
elevates
Chop's just
this
like, hey
movie.
man, I got yeah.
I mean,
And maybe you know the white boy could have had a black lady. On.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I don't want that swirl. That swirl's
Maybe.
already. That's the swirl happens
up,
in
you're
every.
wrong now.
that
You're
swirl-
wrong for
no,
that.
I'm saying, but that swirl happens in almost every movie. The
All
point
right,
is to
I'm
get
just
the other
saying.
swirl.
Every
It could have just
movie.
been like
If it's a Halle Berry, Jennifer Lopez
It could
movie.
have been like we had every all the mixes. You know,
Okay, I
all
have
right,
a
what if
question.
she's
I have a question.
Asian?
Before we get into the,
Oh, we could have had an Asian.
before we
All
get
right.
into the cause,
Okay.
though, I've been thinking about this and I've been wondering this, and this may
Why are you getting so serious?
no, just because this is
right.
important. This is important for me to ask everybody. The Legend of Bagger Vance. Okay.
Oh.
So no, but I'm just saying, if you've seen The Legend of Bagger Vance,
The Legend of Bagger Vance.
yes, The Legend of Bagger
with
Vance.
Will Smith and Matt Damon.
Yes, with Will Smith and Matt
When he was a
Damon.
magical Negro.
Wait, there was supposed to be some swirl between Matt Damon.
Well, no, there was no swirl. There was no
He
swirl.
likes-
I'm
I
just
didn't know where
wondering.
you're going.
I know it seems random that he brings
we
this up.
just so you know, we love Will Smith on this show. We love Will Smith, but
James-
James likes to taint the Will Smith legacy.
Basically, he's trying to bring balance to the force, and he brings up all of Will Smith's questionable films.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying The Legend of Bagger Vance, though. I'm just saying I just feel like it relates to this movie in a big way.
You want to know if that's a good movie?
Is it good? How do we feel about it?
Can we move on to the cause?
We can.
Braylock,
We
can you
can
set up
if
the
we-
cause, please? We're at the home
Victor's
stretch,
like,
y'all.
I don't know what's happening.
We're at the home stretch, y'all.
All right, y'all. It's time for the cause. We rate movies not based on how well we like the film, but whether it furthered the cause of more leading black actors in Hollywood and major motion pictures. So we either give it a black fist, meaning it really helped the cause, a white palm, meaning it was so-so, or nothing, meaning it didn't help the cause in any
Yeah.
way, shape, or form.
How much time we get?
And so we get what?
How much
We
time
have-
we get before we got get?
We have
We have
3
3
seconds.
seconds.
Can we do
You
5?
guys always screw. By the way, I've seen a couple. You guys always screw up the 3-2.
It's Gerard's fault. It's Gerard's fault.
right this time.
I always feel confident until we get to this part, and I'm like, wait, because you got the check marks of what the
We're all gonna
criteria
throw it
is.
up at the same time.
Okay.
When I count 3, 2, 1. Okay, is everybody ready?
No,
Yes,
James, you
I'm
about to say
ready.
something though.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh wait, question: 3, 2, 1, or 1, 2, 3?
Oh man.
See, it's,
I like to clarify. I like to clarify.
I said 3, 2, 1.
Okay,
It's like
can
a
we start at
race.
5?
Why do you always do this?
Can we just start at 5?
Do you have something you want to tell us about
I need
number
2
5?
extra seconds.
Okay.
Were you beat by the number 5?
I need 2 extra seconds.
You have yes. What repressed memory with
Hey,
the
man,
number
why?
5? Do
Oh,
you
can,
have?
we get, can we do 4? Can we do 4? Can I get 4?
All right, God. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Whoa! Oh, wow.
Makes sense. I like it. I like it.
Wow.
Interesting.
2 white palms and 2
Two
black
white
fists.
palms and 2 black fists. Okay, wait. Who should start? Should we start over here?
Yeah, you got.
Do
I feel like you
one-on-one?
got to start. Let's do
Okay,
1 and 1. Let's do 1 and 1.
You,
Okay.
sir.
I really like this film, man. I think this film is great. I gave it a black fist. It launched Derek Luke's career. I know he hasn't done a lot of leading movies, but he got one.
Yeah, he did get
no.
1.
I mean,
He got a
didn't have-
couple.
He and
The
and
Biker
what I-
Boys.
what- and the reason I say that though is because, like we were talking about in the beginning, they were casting this for a long time, And I think this is true. Apparently, like, Denzel didn't want it to cast an unknown because there were other people who were interested in the part, lead actors, famous
Like, who
actors.
else that were
I mean,
young?
they said IMDb said like Will Smith, Chris
Cuba Gooding?
Jr.
Oh, I wouldn't have liked.
I agree. They were a little older for the part, but
Yeah.
I mean, Hollywood doesn't care about that, honestly. The dogs are coming after us. But I think that it's great. Like, it gave an opportunity to an actor who hadn't led a film before.
Yeah.
Like, that's rare in Hollywood. And we talk about that all the time. Like, that's the type of thing where we see white actors get that opportunity sometimes to be a lead in the film, like in a film that I think clearly they had like some Oscar aspirations, even though it didn't get any. So just for that alone, and then also the portrayal of a leading black character, and it didn't have to be. It involved race, but it didn't have to be about race.
Yeah.
And there were so many black actors. I mean, Viola Davis is in this movie.
Viola Davis.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's so many, and
good.
so many great actors, great performances in this movie. So I thought it really helped the cause, even if Hollywood didn't like recognize it. It did it. The film did its job.
Yeah, so like I agree with all of those things, and I think that what I kind of lean into the most is this thing of like they were trying to find a name, you know, but then it goes to this guy who is what I now learned the sales associate at the gift shop. Like,
Yeah,
what?
that's crazy.
The
Yeah.
sales associate at the gift shop is leading this movie like that. Like, that's amazing.
That's what we're waiting for.
The fact that it was Denzel's first, his directorial debut, and then just the movies being populated with black actors, but it's not so much the film itself being not so much about race. It's something that that's why I gave it a fist. I was like kind of wondering like, oh, if it's a movie that didn't make that much, like should what to give it? But definitely just sort of it being this kind of a movie that is a role that would be great. Like any actor would just on the page, race aside, right, would want to play. I think 100%.
I mean, this, to me, the criteria for this category is it's tricky for this movie. Because I love the movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I thought that this was a great coming out party for Derek Luke. I thought it was a great coming out party for Denzel Washington. I thought it was a great coming out party for Viola Davis. You can make the argument that this, roles like this sort of helped establish her as a leading woman.
Right. Yeah.
In terms of just her pure acting chops. But, we also talked about the fact that, here is this guy is like this, he's a regular guy just dealing with some regular stuff. And he did it splendidly. And yet there aren't more roles like that.
Right. Yeah.
And yet, we talked about why, maybe, if Hollywood is guilty and if audiences are guilty of sort of, if you're, we see you as an action hero therefore you're an action hero. If you're seen as, I don't know, a leading actor in a role who plays like with a lot of angst and that sort of thing, you're sort of seen as that. For better or worse, we categorize.
Right. Yeah.
So Derek Luke gets to play this really vulnerable guy who happens to be black, and maybe he's that guy. But guess what? We don't have those roles.
Yeah.
Right.
And so my whole thing is like, well, the hope, I think, based on what you guys are sort of setting as the standard for this, white palm or black fist, is that did it succeed in creating more of those roles?
Yeah.
And I don't think it did. I mean, you keep bringing up Creed. So we're talking, this was back in 2002. I'm sure you guys know better than I what's happened between 2002 and Creed, but I can't think of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of, man, the reason I gave it a palm is because this movie brought anger in my heart. Like, straight up, like, I'm angry now thinking about it because I think Derek Luke did a great job. I mean, the thing is, and you all have said it, anybody, black, white, Asian, Puerto Rican, would want a role like this, where your character grows, where your character is dealing with, we talk about it all the time, where your character is, you're just a human dealing with human issues.
I mean, we talked about so many issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like so many things that like come up. And the thing is, people, like, not just black kids get spankings. You know what I'm saying? Not just black kids get abused. And then, like, this movie has so much. And this, to me, was just another example. And it sucks. And nobody says it's another example of, like, why? It brings the question, why did this movie not get enough love? Why did Derek Luke why did he not blow up? Two, why didn't he get any type of nomination? Like, why didn't he get, like, take Oscars out of it. Why didn't he get a SAG one? Why didn't he get a Golden Globe? There's enough places for him to get a nomination. Like, he got nothing. And my thing is, why was this particular role not relatable to anybody?
I think he won like the Black Reel Awards.
What's the name? There it is. Boom.
But what I'm saying is, why is this? Why can this man who's portraying a man? Simple as that. We talk about something. He's
That's a good point. Can I change my...
A base level human.
No, man. We make good points. I think it's right.
He played a base level human.
Balance.
He got no attention. And again, 2015, 2016, Michael B. Jordan did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It got nothing.
No, JB, can I change mine real quick?
No, man. You calm down,
And
man.
again, I'm going to bring it up until the movie comes out. And this, matter of fact, Denzel does a good job because technically, Nate Parker, Denzel discovered as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But my thing is, I'm pretty sure Nate Parker's do a great job in Birth of a Nation. But I'll tell you this, if Nate Parker was just a speaker, not a slave, he wouldn't get shit. But the fact that he's a slave, I bet you he gets everything. Let me tell you why, because he's still a person overcoming the black struggle.
Yo, on the low, I changed mine.
Nah, it's too black.
So it hurt.
On the low.
I do think there is we keep talking about the industry. I do think I'm curious to see what black audiences think about, like, are they interested in, I know they, like I said, I know they want to see more. I know that we want to see more than slaves, but as a whole, do they want to see black audiences?
Yeah.
Do they want to see their black men this vulnerable?
Right. That's such a good question.
That's a good question.
It's such a good question, really. Man.
All right. So 2 black fists, 2 white palms, Antwone Fisher.
Antwone Fisher.
Definitely go watch that movie if you
gotta
watch
watch
it. Doesn't matter.
It's on HBO Go, and it's on. You can rent it on Amazon.
And it's one of those movies that's like, it's all about the acting. So even if like you're like, oh, I know the story already, it's not. It's
so good.
It's about the acting. Like the scenes.
It
it's
really
like
is.
And
the way the story.
I became a Joy Bryant fan.
Yes, Joy was so
I never
good.
disliked her, but I was just like, wow, she's amazing.
she's great.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is she? Has she been?
She's been in a couple of.
She was on Parenthood,
Gorgeous.
which my girlfriend like immediately she was like,
Ah,
"Oh,
nice.
that's yeah." And we're like,
So
"Oh,
funny.
right."
I feel like TV. I mean, I love film, but I feel like I like when it's somebody who's on a TV show that I watch. I feel like closer to them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like more invested
She
in
was
their
in that
career,
movie,
and they're like, I'm like, oh my god, like this. I don't know. Maybe because it's in your home and you're watching it.
She was in a really good romantic comedy. It was her, Michael Ealy, Regina Hall, and Kevin Hart called About Last Night.
Yeah.
She was like they were like the A couple. So it was great.
Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, anything you wanna
Victor?
plug?
Anything coming?
Okay, all right.
You know, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for coming out
Yeah.
here.
It's fun, man.
Yeah, it was great having you. And I mean, I love freaking King of Queens. I watch that all the time. Me and my friend Mark Ramos. Shout out to Mark Ramos because he listens to this. We would always watch King of Queens after school.
The King of Queens.
Oh my God.
King of Queens.
It's James. James is the reason.
The King of Queens.
Oh no! Wait, no.
The King of Queens.
The King of Queens.
And The Affair, you can check that out.
And The Affair.
And The Affair.
Hold on.
Yeah,
That's a
check
really
that
good
out.
show.
That's going on.
Y'all won an award the first season, right?
Golden Globe.
Golden
yeah.
Globe.
Oh, baby.
There it is.
Golden Globe.
What is that? Is it season 2 coming out?
Season
3 now.
Season 3.
Yeah.
Showtime.
Catch up.
Showtime, baby. Yeah, because I know, what's the main actress's name in that?
Ruth Wilson.
She's in Luther.
She's in Luther. I love her in Luther.
Yeah. I saw
Huh? That's a swirl.
Swirl.
That's a swirl.
Yo, there's some swirls happening on TV.
Oh, TV
yo.
can get you like what is it? What
I saw that.
What did Idris say? Welcome to diverse television, baby.
Yeah.
They're not scared of it.
All right, we'll be back with our own plugs later, but thanks, guys. Peace.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Please. Yo, it's time for plugs. Yeah, so I'm here doing the plugs on myself because Jonathan left me and we kicked James out, so it's just me and I'm just doing it alone. Man, there's nobody here to talk to. It's all lonely. Whatever. I like it by myself. Anyway, it's time to plug some stuff, y'all. All right, and if you're in New York City on April 14th, come down to the UCB Theater to see A Journey Through Black History. It's a show we do with our sketch team, Astronomy Club. It's going to be dope. It's been written about in a bunch of publications, Time Out New York, New York Times, all that stuff. So what? You can talk about Black history any time of year because why not? Also, coming up May 22nd, we're part of the New York Pod Festival. it's the podcast festival. It's going to be here. We're going to love it. It's going to be great. Also, you can follow James at James Third Comedy. You can look him up on his website at jamesthirdcomedy.com, on Twitter. You can follow Braylock at John Braylock on Twitter. He has a website, johnbraylock.com. He also wanted everyone to know that you can check him out on Snapchat, Little John 2001. That's Little, Little, John 2001. I also have a Snapchat now, y'all. It's Jerah M. That's my first name, Jerah, and the letter M. Just follow me. All I do is snap other people. Don't be expecting to see my face because, social media wears me out. They forced me to get a Twitter as well, so you can follow me. I learned how to change it. Yes, at Jerah Milligan, so you can check me out on there. And, guys, thanks for listening and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate it. Hey, what y'all doing right now? Is no one's here to tell me to stop talking, so I'm going to keep talking for a little bit. Y'all hanging out? That's real. I'm just chilling, listening to my own voice. That's not weird at all, actually. I thought I'd be weirded out about it, but I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean? You guys know what I mean. All right. Okay. People are looking at me like I'm talking to myself like I'm a weirdo. So, I'm going to get out of here. Yo, almost forgot. Next week, we're doing Sister Act 2, starring Whoopi Goldberg and Lauryn Hill. And we also have a special guest. Y'all, we have a woman of color on this show. Yes. We've been trying to work this out for so long. I'm super excited. I'm not going to tell you who she is yet because it's a surprise. And we love our surprises. So check out Sister Act 2. Came out in 1993. It's dope. Check it out. Peace.
That was a HeadGum podcast.